We are back live. Not really live. This is recorded. Welcome to the Unplugged, Unscripted podcast. Thank you for stopping by. If you're on YouTube, appreciate it. If you're on Spotify, wherever you're at, we really appreciate you. Hopefully this is not your first time listening in. This is episode number 5, I'm pretty sure. So go back and watch those old episodes. We got lots of fun topics. If you're here and you don't know what we do, we talk about everything man-related. When it comes to dating, it comes to development, it comes to life and relationships. We take a deep dive in topics and videos, and you get to hear 3, what I would call diverse perspectives, debate and talk about what it's like being a man in modern society. So we got a pretty fun topic for everybody today. We are talking about dating apps and why you should or maybe you should not delete your dating apps. So that's what we got for you today. If you're new here and you haven't,
Andrew,
if you don't know who we are, I'm Chill Dill.
You got Benji here. Let's do this.
Okay, let's do this. Today we're gonna watch a video about a guy talking about dating apps, and we're just kind of gonna shoot the shit and talk through a couple of the points that he makes.
Let's go.
And another reason is that being married means I'm not involved in a dating scene today, which is great because that scene is abysmal in every conceivable way. Now, dating was not easy a decade ago when I was still in the game, but it was a walk in the park compared to the situation today. It's probably never been more difficult in modern American history anyway for a single person to find the right match. And that may seem paradoxical because it's also true that single people have never had more choices. And that's exactly the problem.
More choices.
I know the first conversation we wanted to talk about was just, our experiences on these dating apps. And, and just, whether or not gauge what Matt Walsh said. Matt Walsh of Daily Wire, what he was just communicating about how, modern dating, there's a lot of choices, and I'll be the first one to say, yeah, when you're on that app, it's a what is it called? It's a revolving doors of accounts, and all you do is usually you either say yes or you say no. There really isn't any initial interactions beyond that, besides whether you like the interaction is written on the profile, like that's that. There isn't no active interaction. It's really profile showcasing, qualities, and then swiping. And so, I can go into details about experiences, but that's my initial take. So I'll toss the ball over. But yeah, I can confirm, definitely choice centric.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. It's been a couple years since I've been on a dating app. Obviously, everybody knows on here that I'm married, but I think the first time I was on a dating app was probably I'm trying to think, man. I don't know what year we're in anymore. 2013, maybe 2014. It's probably the first year that I used a dating app, and yeah, it was a crazy change because kind of like Benji said, is I think it was probably 2013, 2014. I think, but it's a big change because you just keep swiping. I think the first one I used, I'm trying to remember what they were called. For sure, Tinder was one of the first ones. Actually, I don't know if I used that initially. I think I used Coffee Meets Bagel. I remember that one. Do you guys remember that one? Coffee Meets Bagel was big.
If you said 2013, that's about right. That's right when it gets launched. It was literally a year after.
Yeah, that was. Yeah. I don't even know if it's still a thing, but yeah, it was definitely a change because it did for me. It almost felt like a game. Especially because I remember on Coffee Meets Bagel, it was you have these bagels, I believe. I think it was bullet bagels. And you only had a certain amount of them, and you could only use a certain amount of them a day. But I remember, because I think back in the day, I lived with Benji back then. We've known all each other for quite a while. But I remember we try to hack the system, how we can get more bagels every day. And if you send somebody one they think they'll you get a bagel for it. I don't know. We were trying to finesse the apps. But it made it a game because you were trying to figure out how many bagels you can get so that you can say, swipe, what is it, right more. But yeah, it was just like a swipe left and right. And I know back then I was definitely probably more picky than I would be today, potentially. Who knows? I also am a different financial bracket, so who knows? But yeah, I definitely probably said like, I probably swiped right on maybe like 10% of people, if that, maybe. I don't know, maybe 20%. It was pretty slim. So for me, it felt like more of a game. I think maybe I had like one date come from that app, and the whole time I was on it. But yeah, that was kind of my experience. I'm curious, Andrew, what was yours?
You got,
Or what has yours been?
Tinder, like all these Bumble, all that, and they just create like an illusion of that unlimited supply of profiles that you see that just you're like, exactly, you're like, oh yeah, one left,
Options.
right, everybody's got like maybe 2 seconds to 5 seconds where you're making a decision, and it's a game, it's a video game, it's more of a video game in my opinion. But I think like the same way too, like the way I look at it, it's the same like thing was jobs, right? Like you're applying for a job, and they're getting thousands of those applications. They're doing the same exact thing. Could they deny somebody that's well qualified for the job without even looking at their resume? 100%. But it's part of the system, and if online, if online dating is like part of today's life, that's just the reality of it. I did have a few dates from online dating, I'm not gonna lie, but some of them were good, some of them were it's a mixed it's a mixed reaction, I want to say. But you definitely have to swipe a lot before you start like, okay, here we go, got something here, and then you start chatting with somebody, and then it's just not, I don't know, not up to what you're expecting as far as intelligence, or like, having conversation, holding conversation with you. So that's my experience with online dating. It's not really my preferred way of getting to know somebody, or like initiating an interaction, in my opinion.
I remember back in the day, the worst was when you matched with somebody, but then like, I can't remember what apps, because a lot of the apps, I think,
Bumble.
like the woman,
Yeah.
or I can't remember, maybe it's Bumble what I'm mostly thinking about. Bumble's the worst because you can
Oh,
match,
the paywall.
but you can't say nothing until that other person says something. And so I don't know how they've monetized it over the last couple years
They
after
don't
going
let
public
you.
and stuff, but
Yeah.
I remember that was the biggest thing, because you're just waiting there. You're just
Yeah.
waiting for like a response. Like, okay, we matched. Now what? Like, I obviously swiped for a reason.
Yeah.
But like, you don't hear nothing
Basically,
back.
the
I mean,
woman
where do you go
has-
from there?
Initiates the interaction on
That's
Bumble.
I remember that's
You can like her, and then in order for her to see you, she has to pay. And then she starts the conversation. If she doesn't start the conversation in 24 hours, that expires. And so not only does she have to like you back,
Oh,
she
yeah.
also sends the first message, which is very interesting to me. But
I'd love to revisit that.
And then I remember with Coffee Meets Bagel, it was the guy has to initiate first, if I remember. But then sometimes you wouldn't hear nothing back.
yeah,
It's just like you're still just waiting for someone to get back to you. You're like, what the hell's going on? Like, what is this? What is this dating app? Like, I don't get
And
it.
they also
Obviously,
have-
it's not a dating app.
Oh,
It's
God.
something else.
Are we? No. Say. Are we talking about this?
Here comes the data.
explain.
Are we talking about this right
The
now?
data man himself. Yeah.
It sounds like, because let me talk about my experience too. Because like, Chill Dill, you mentioned how like in the beginning you didn't swipe much, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean,
I did
it's-
start
that-
swiping more as time went on, though.
Correct. As
100%, 100%.
the advent of the social, the internet dating market, came, like this is basically some of the data sets that are coming. Like the amount of messages that men send out in retrospect to the amount of messages that women receive and they send out, it's like the opposite. And like all three of us, like I'll say it too, like they're like currently I'm on Hinge, and I won't be ashamed. Like I swipe right often. And it's the point of the conversation of how like you understand how like when you swipe you don't hear anything back. Often.
It's like those videos with the finger, you know, the auto finger.
It's
Just
like going so fast. That's funny.
Dude. Yeah, but then the whole premise of that is because you realize when you do connect, whenever you do connect, you rarely get any responses. So in your hindbrain, you're like, okay, how do I make out the math then?
Let me ask you this.
Start getting as much
Logic.
connection.
Go ahead.
And then
Keep going.
hopefully,
But I have a question for you on this.
no, that's what I meant. And then hopefully, like of the ones you connect, of the set amounts you connect, you have to hope.
Are
of them
there
will respond back.
people that you connected with that you did not respond back to their messages? Okay, so it's both ways, but based
Absolutely,
on the data,
absolutely,
obviously,
absolutely.
I get you. I'll give you
Yeah,
that.
but not no. Ooh,
I mean,
no,
like-
it's not both ways. It's not both ways though. It's both ways in the sense every 100 swipes that I send and get connected, it's like 0.1 that would
Gotcha.
potentially like me
Okay.
back.
So
No, but no, I'll
but we're
recognize
not talking about
it's
just
not. It's
messages.
totally.
We're talking about like versus like.
Well,
Yeah,
you can't send
so
messages
the-
until you
So
actually
even,
like.
but you're
like
saying like okay,
get the- yeah,
it's a small percentage of people that like back, okay, plus also after you initiate the conversation, then also even a smaller percentage of people that will actually respond. Okay, but
Actually
that
respond.
goes both ways. I'm talking about the
Correct.
part. That
Yeah,
goes
yes,
both
yes,
ways.
yes. No,
Okay.
it goes. We could say both ways, but it's completely scaled out of proportion. It's like saying, "Oh, it rains in the Mojave
but
Desert,
what I mean,
and
but-
it rains
okay,
here."
Hold on.
It's
What
the
I
same
mean
thing.
by it goes both ways. As in, I'm not talking about liking. Yes, we're on the same page with this, right? Like, because Dylan was actually over
Correct.
a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about it. He was like, "Yeah," it's like we were talking about online dating, and then he was like, "Yeah," it was like he was like, "Yeah, I'm picky, but out of the people that I liked, a very small percentage." And that was just, to me, he was just like a young, good-looking man. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, maybe, but I'm just saying,
don't matter out here, bro.
Like, yeah, maybe you were in a
Don't
different
matter.
income bracket back then, but it's not like one of those things that you write on your profile, like, oh yeah, I'm $150. Like, you're not saying, you're not mentioning some of these criteria on there. It's purely like, looks, pictures, height. I don't know, maybe something funny. Like, so besides these things, it's a whole different game than like an in-life interaction. You know what I mean? So, but that was like a surprise to me. But back to the messaging part. The messaging part, I feel like it goes both ways. I had some interactions where I didn't respond, and I had some interactions where like it wasn't responding back to me. I never got a message back, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. So
But then you have to agree though. Like we can say same in the sense the action might happen. Like you might not respond, just like she might not respond. But if the frequency is entirely disproportionate, though, the amount of messages that she might not respond to versus the amount of messages that you might not respond to, the amount is different. Like I'm not gonna respond to the 5 people that likes me because I'm like, yo, butt ugly. However.
No, bro. What it is this is what it is. You got so thirsty, you just started swiping right, and then when you match, you're like, oh shit, I forgot I swiped on this person. I'm good. Like,
what the sleepy? or like drunk or what? What's happening? Drunk
Okay,
swipe.
so,
What
you're
time
right.
was
Swipe.
it?
That's gonna
Yeah.
mean that
There is no. That is true. There is a. That's a good point. That is a good point. There are, you do swipe so much that sometimes you don't remember that you swiped, and then when they
Yeah.
like you back, you're like, oh no. Okay, so no, that's true. That's true.
That's funny.
That's a good point. Good point.